I guess I should have said that there's a lot of spoilers in this. Or whether it's just popping up in Secret War. All my friends out there in YouTube land, it is your good buddy Philtastic Phil here. And my beautiful wife. Welcome back to our channel. We do not have a Monday mail call this week, honey. Nothing in the mail. There's one more shipment I've been waiting on, but I know it's been long delayed. So, it didn't come yet. We'll put a pin in that. And I didn't get, other than this awesome t-shirt, I didn't get any comic stuff, related stuff for my birthday, which was yesterday as we are recording this. So I thought I would take some time today. This has been a video I've been wanting to film for a while. Deadpool 3 has been filming, and I wanted to kind of take a couple just kind of fun guesses at really what's the movie's going to be about, and really what would be my kind of ideal pick for a Deadpool 3 film. I should say this is all speculative. Do not go out and buy a bunch of books that you can or can't, may or may not be able to afford based on what I'm saying, because I know nothing. My wife will be the first one to tell you
That's
that.
not true.
I'm just taking, as far as what's actually happening, I'm just taking an educated guess.
Yeah.
You know, one thing, like we watch a fair amount of YouTube, and occasionally you'll see one of those, this is the plot of this, and it's somebody who just basically took a bunch of existing film footage and spooled it together to look like something it's not. Also, there might be some mild spoilers for Ant-Man in this. So just bear that in mind for the latest Ant-Man film, which we just watched on Disney+. One particular scene that really kind of confirmed my suspicions, at least in my head. And I'm also going to be referencing, I should say, the Deadpool 3 teaser trailer that came out a few months ago. I'm not going to show it on this video because people seem to run into copyright issues showing movie trailers, which always kind of shocked me, because it's like you're showing the commercial that you can just watch. You know, just why bother? I'm sure I could beat the copyright claim. Most people have. It's just a hassle. Who needs to go through that? So, do you remember the teaser that I'm talking about, honey? We saw Deadpool sitting on a couch and Hugh Jackman is Wolverine walking. Yeah. So, these are what my thoughts are. Well, first of all, let me just set the table a bit. We both loved and enjoyed the first Deadpool film. I really liked the second one as well. My wife took me to see that on my birthday a couple years ago. My wife is a little bit more mixed. But I think that they were trying to basically change the tone of Deadpool and add a different layer to him. But they kind of shifted it back to the original tone towards the end. And I could kind of understand that. And they did repeat a fair amount of the same jokes from the first one. And I think I could definitely see how that detracted from it. That being said, I do like the additions that they had in that film, especially Josh Brolin as Cable and Zaza Beetz as Domino. Both of which, by the way, who have not been confirmed for the new film. One of the few actors from the first two films that have not been confirmed for the third film. What were your thoughts about those two characters in particular?
They were good, but I just didn't really enjoy it as much.
Now, I can understand that. I can understand that. Again, it was a different tone.
Yeah.
Basically, they did what Peacemaker did, but they compressed it into 2 hours and change.
Yeah.
You know, basically making a joke character, you know, seem something heavier, something deeper. And I'm going to say this too. My whole basis, if I'm basing on the comics, I'll say this. I don't go that far back with Deadpool at all. I didn't have a huge amount of his appearances until his first limited series. And I did read some of his ongoing series for a while, most of the earlier stuff. And I'll have to say, there are really no quintessential Deadpool stories. There are some great stories, but there's nothing that is like, oh, this is the equivalent to Spider-Man's Death of Gwen Stacy or Kraven's Last Hunt story. You know, there's no kind of big overarching story for Deadpool, which, I mean, you might make the argument with some of the, I don't even know what it was called, when Deadpool was seemingly killed and a new Deadpool was introduced. that kind of whole build up, but I can't see that as a film, and I really wouldn't put that particular story up on the same echelon as any of the other stories that I mentioned, Death of Gwen Stacy or whatnot. So, but in the case of a Deadpool as a film, I think that actually works in the character's favor because it gives them a little bit more flexibility. And granted, none of the characters that we've really seen, as villains at least, have been major villains that people can say, well, they screwed this up. As, comic book fans, some deservingly so and some not have said with some characters. What are your thoughts as far as what would make a good Deadpool 3 film? Again, Wolverine is going to be heavily involved in this one.
I mean, honestly, I was okay with just the first one coming out, and I would have been okay with no other sequels after that, because I didn't think that the second one really added anything more. I thought the first was excellent. I don't know how you can go about doing a third without really ruining the movie entirely, unless they bring some other character in where it's gonna be a huge, like a surprise factor. I think that would be the only way to really reel people into it.
Well, I mean, I'll say the original plan that Fox was promoting before Fox got bought by Disney seemed to be that Deadpool was going to be part of X-Force, which was going to be Cable, Domino, presumably some of the characters from the second Deadpool film, and Deadpool. Now, since Fox is no more as its own company, I think those ideas are off the table. I do think, however, there's going to be a lot of references to that in this film. Let me set the table a little bit here. So, what we do know, based on that little kind of video announcement from a few months ago, at least what I think that we know, I think we are going to see an X-Force. And to be honest with you, and I do think that this is going to be very much rooted in the Fox universe. In fact, I think that this film is going to be the official send-off to the Fox film universe. And why do I say that? Okay. When they made the announcement, and I encourage you, of course, to go back to that video, I will not be showing it here. Deadpool is in his costume as it appeared at the end of the second film, the gray, soot all over his costume, which, we were talking about this, I think just yesterday, that's a reference to his X-Force uniform. When they did, I think he was involved in that third volume of X-Force. The standard motif was black and gray. So I think that's a direct kind of kickback to X-Force. So maybe he's kind of gone a little bit further back in introducing X-Force. What I do think is going to happen as a result of this, I think that a lot of this film is going to be borrowed from the Avengers storyline, Time Runs Out. It just came out maybe 10 years ago or so. And this is where some of those Ant-Man spoilers are going to come through. And then I pointed this out to you when we were watching it. In the Ant-Man Quantumania film, when Kang and Janet Van Dyne are talking in the quantum realm, he starts talking about incursions. And this is precisely what Avengers Time Runs Out was about. This film was a big ramp up to Secret War, which is going to be one of the next Avengers films, if that ever gets made. And in this kind of ramp up, it was explained that these universes, the different multiverses, are colliding. And when they do, one universe dies and the other one survives. In fact, Secret War was the culmination of these other universes and the Marvel universe, the 616 as we know it, and the Ultimate Universe colliding. I think that that's what's happening now. I think Kang's recent appearances and involvements post the Loki series and now in Ant-Man are causing these incursions to happening. So I think that the Fox universe is now going to be crashing into the Disney MCU universe. And this is the send-off for all of those Fox characters. So there have been teased, nothing confirmed, at least as far as I know, but rumors of some of the Fox X-Men popping up. We saw Charles Xavier pop up in the Multiverse of Madness, but I do think there's a good chance you'll see him again. I know that his name escapes me, he's a great actor. The actor who plays Magneto, old Magneto, has teased that he might be popping up in this film. Again, whether that's true or not, who knows? But we do know Hugh Jackman is in it. And Hugh Jackman's conditions for being involved in this film was, hey, you can't mess up what happened at the end of Logan. Okay. Here's a way of doing it without messing anything that up. Because Logan in Hugh Jackman's mind was the perfect send-off for Wolverine. Whether you agree with it or not, a whole nother discussion. I, for one, would have liked to see Sabretooth in the end, but I thought it was a good film, regardless. My little recap in 2 seconds. But I think, and they have also said you'll see multiple versions of Wolverine. So I do think that you're going to see, as a result of Deadpool messing with the whole timeline and whatnot, at the end of the second Deadpool film, you are seeing multiple realities kind of collide into this one. And there's where the multiple Wolverines pop in. Now, which Wolverines will you see? I think that maybe there's a good chance you'll see the killer Wolverine, whatever you want to see, that was popped up in Logan. Maybe they'll throw in something fun, like you'll see, I think it'd be interesting if they threw in like an Age of Apocalypse Wolverine, though that's very highly unlikely. Maybe they'll pick up Wolverine right after his escape from the Weapon X facility, like we saw in the X-Men Apocalypse film. Whatever happens in the span of that film, I think that it's going to end with Hugh Jackman, the current Wolverine, sacrificing himself to get Deadpool out of that universe and Deadpool landing in the MCU. That's going to be the end result. Whether it's directly in the MCU, kind of like how Venom popped up at the end of No Way Home. I guess I should have said that there's a lot of spoilers on this. Or whether it's just popping up in Secret War. I think that that's how Deadpool's going to make it over. Because I think Deadpool is something that Disney sees value in and wants to bring over without messing too much with the character. What are your thoughts, honey?
I mean, I don't really know how they're really going to incorporate and make Wolverine or X-Men interesting in the movie, to be honest with you. Like, I don't understand how it's going to play out and how the plot is going to be. I really don't.
Let me ask you, do you think that multiple X-Men might make it over?
I mean, again, how does that relate to Deadpool? I mean, how is that going to play out?
Deadpool kind of is not a main X-Men character, but he's one of the X characters.
Right, but there's complete different...
Colossus has been a huge part of those films. He's a mainstay of the X-Men.
I was going to say they're complete different characteristics, if you're really thinking about it.
Well, the baseline is they're all mutants.
But what I'm saying is, like, one is more funny, more silly, such as Deadpool. The other one is a little bit more serious, a little bit more, you know... Well,
you do have lighthearted X-Men. Nightcrawler, I know that you don't know a huge amount of how the characters are in the books. He's a kind of a fun-loving type of character, though he's gotten a little bit darker, I think, at times.
Would you agree that Deadpool's a little bit more silly and immature and...
Deadpool, I equate Deadpool...
Comedic and...
I equate Deadpool to, and Harley Quinn is the same thing. Harley Quinn is Deadpool with boobs. That's the main difference. Yeah. But Deadpool and Harley Quinn are Bugs Bunny. Mm-hmm. You know, you love watching Bugs Bunny pop up. Back in the day, you would see, Bugs Bunny shoot somebody with a shotgun, shoot Daffy Duck with a shotgun, and his bill, swings around. You don't see that in the new versions. But basically, that's the key. Deadpool is Bugs Bunny and Harley Quinn is Deadpool with boobs.
See, that would have been interesting if they incorporated Harley Quinn.
Well, Harley Quinn is a DC character, so you're not going to see her part of this.
Because they're both funny. I figured it'd be a little bit more of a comedy.
Might be too much. That's, I think, where Deadpool kind of played a great line with, more so the first film, with being funny and being something heartfelt at the same time. Because Deadpool at the heart of it was, hey, he messed up with Vanessa by abandoning her.
Yeah. That's why I didn't really like the second, because I thought that was a little depressing compared to the first. Like, the first was a little bit more, surrounding around comedy, and it was a little bit more light, whereas the second was a little bit heavier.
Well, Vanessa is coming back for the third film. Now, if she'll be stuck in a time jelly or whatever it was, like in the second one, that's.
But the second one also
unknown.
had a serious tone, so I felt like it kind of took away from Deadpool's character and his personality trait.
Yeah,
and
I
it
see
made
that.
it something completely different, and I didn't like that.
So let me ask something. If Marvel calls you up and says, hey, what do you think the third Deadpool film should be about, and you have to put Wolverine in, what would you do?
I think it would have to be something silly, something comedic, where Wolverine kind of matches Deadpool's character in a way.
So wait, you want Wolverine to be funny?
Yeah.
I don't think
then
no.
It's gonna be a little awkward where one is funny and one is serious, and how do you really mesh two of them together into a movie?
I think when the two characters have teamed up traditionally, I think this is what the tone of them in the book is going to be. I think it's going to be sort of like a classic comedy where it's like you have the straight man and you have the funny guy. You know, that's just how duos work out to be. That's a classic trope, if you will.
But what duos have you really seen in the past where one is completely opposite than the other?
So many.
No.
I mean,
Spider-Man and Tony Stark maybe, but he's a kid.
You're talking about in comics?
Yeah, no, in the movies.
In comic films?
Right.
I mean, they haven't really delved that I could think of in the films. However, well, yeah, look at Guardians. Chris Pratt and really all the other Guardians.
But they're part of the movie. You're not introducing a character from a different movie into, the main movie.
Well, no, because right now, if we're working in the Fox universe, they're already in the same universe.
Right.
Deadpool could have just as easily popped up in any of those X-Men films.
Well, what I'm saying is X-Men is not normally part of Deadpool. You know what I'm saying?
It actually...
The Guardians of the Galaxy, they're together in the movie. You're not bringing a separate character.
What you're forgetting was that you saw Deadpool in the Wolverine Origins film.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about how he resulted in the end of it. I'm talking about the very opening, Ryan Reynolds pre-Deadpool, as the mercenary Wade Wilson, deflecting bullets with his katanas and whatnot, which arguably was the best part of that film.
Yeah.
What I would have liked to see personally, and I think that they're missing out on a huge opportunity, I would have brought Josh Brolin back in. I would have taken a page out of the first big crossover I read as a kid, Executioner's Song, where Cable seemingly tries to assassinate Charles Xavier and goes out on the lam, and it was the combined teams of both X-Men teams and X-Factor, and I think Excalibur at the time. No, I think Excalibur was excluded. Searching for him, while X-Force is trying to find him as well and protect him, and it kind of led to some the first kind of X-Men and X-Factor versus X-Force fight I'd seen since Civil War. But when it was the big conclusion, and spoiler if you haven't read this, of course, the big conclusion was the assailant, or the would-be assailant, was Strife, who was a clone of Cable. So I would have liked to see them somehow incorporate Strife into a film. So you would have had Josh Brolin playing both Cable and Strife. And I think there could have been some really kind of witty banter, for one, at least with Deadpool in that. He could have said, hey, wait, are you Thanos? That type of thing.
But I feel like Deadpool's a funny movie. Mm-hmm. Okay. X-Men is not a funny guy. You know that, right? And I know you're saying, opposites could work, yes, but if it's not funny, like the second one wasn't really funny. I didn't really laugh a whole lot as the first. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
Right.
So if it's going to be the same tone again, I'm going to be checked out.
Well, so your main thing is you want to see a comedy.
Well, he is funny. Deadpool is a silly comedy guy.
But what I'm telling you now is that Deadpool is a comedic element that is traditionally in the books is easily brought into the books. And in fact, it's kind of weird how it's kind of mixes in. Like, he's on the current X-Force book. It's a minor role. He's not the main character. but he's still funny. Like, he made like a wisecrack to Omega Red, and Omega Red is definitely a more serious character. He was a character that they had rumored to bring in the second one and didn't. He appears for a brief second, I think, in one of the extended footage scenes, but that's it. A lot of people have been teasing him as a character in the third film, but they've been saying that for a very long time. But the point I'm trying to make is that you could bring a comedic character into that film. And in fact, the way he's even brought into the books is because Deadpool, and this is something I know that you're not a fan of, that he's done in the films as well, breaks the fourth wall and talks to the viewer.
No, I don't.
He does that constantly in the comics, and people are like, who the hell are you talking to? And even Deadpool's like, oh yeah, well, this happens in comics all the time. He's, somebody dies, they're going to come back to life, and people disconnect from that,
But my point is, you're not going to be seeing Deadpool act like himself. Like Ant-Man, you didn't like. Why? Because you didn't see Ant-Man in his.
Well, they changed the tone, but
right.
I don't think they're going to make.
This is what I'm saying. Like,
here's the thing, though. I don't think they're going to make that mistake. I think, if anything, it's going to borrow from, as I said, Avengers Time's running out, but I think it's also going to borrow from the Versus series in the Marvel Universe. This might very well be Deadpool versus the Fox Marvel Universe. We don't know. And that I think might be a little bit more likely than anything, because you're going to have a lot of opportunities for action. You'll have a lot of opportunities for comedy, and you'll have an opportunity to say goodbye to a lot of these Fox characters. I'll say this, though. If they do, and this was a question I asked you earlier, we got a little off track. If they do bring over any other X-Men characters into the MCU, which I don't necessarily think they will, but I would really like to see them bring over, what's her name? The one that's married to the Jonas brother that played Jean Grey in the Phoenix film.
Oh.
Sophie something.
Yeah.
Sophia something, I think. But I would like her to, I think Sophia Turner.
Something like that.
Yeah. I think if we have to pick one element of besides Deadpool of the Fox universe to come over, I think she'd be an asset.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, that is do you have any other thoughts, I should say, before I say this on Deadpool 3?
I was going to say Nightcrawler and Deadpool.
I don't like the new iteration of Nightcrawler.
But you wouldn't think it would be funny? You don't think it would be hilarious?
No, because it's two different types of comedy, really. And again, the Nightcrawler that we saw in the Dark Phoenix film, I thought was way too serious and a little scary towards the end.
Yeah.
And didn't act like Nightcrawler. So I have no, adhesion, I don't think that's it. I know no love for this new Nightcrawler. Maybe, what's his name? Kelsey Grammer as Beast might be an interesting choice.
Oh, yeah,
though they
maybe,
kind of get away from it. You didn't see the third X-Men movie, though.
I know what you're talking about, though. I think he was in one of the movies we watched together.
The only one he was in was X3, which was terrible.
I know he made an appearance in the movie. I just don't know what.
X3.
That's what it was, probably.
But you didn't see that.
No, I'm saying from movies we've seen together.
But you haven't seen that film, is what I'm saying.
I don't know that.
The guy who plays Frasier?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But those are our thoughts. Again, somewhat random, somewhat scattered. Take them with a grain of salt. But what are your thoughts about the Deadpool film? What do you want to see? What do you think is going to happen? Leave a comment below. I would have loved, you know what though I thought they would have done? And I've joked about this before. I thought that the most Deadpool thing that they could have done was make this a musical.
Yeah.
And that's how they would have gotten Hugh Jackman back in, because he loves singing. But supposedly the Harley Quinn Joker film is a musical, so they kind of beat Marvel to the punch on that.
Yeah.
With that, peace, love, and comics. Take care.